to a new episode on the Books on Toast channel. If you are wondering who I am, I don't blame you. I have not been on this channel in front of the camera in 550 days. But who's counting? Okay, so I am Smriti, Sant, and I used to work with Anuya and Sharon on the Books on Toast channel. So if you didn't see me like in front of the screen, I was mostly always behind the screen. Yeah, so that was me interacting with most of y'all, and yeah, that was what I did. I now still love books and I love talking about it, so I started my own channel because we were sitting in lockdown doing nothing. So I have my own channel called Sant.Reads, so do go there and follow me. I am here today because there is lots happening in this world, and Anuya was like, hey, do you want to film a video? And I was like, sure. But yeah, clearly lots is happening in the world right now with the coronavirus, us being stuck in lockdown, so much of shit, including the protests that are happening in the US for the Black Lives Matter movement. I have been reading about it, as I'm sure a lot of us have, and because of what's happening there, I kind of thought that maybe we could come here and recommend to you some books by African American authors, and these are really cool books that I think if you read, it will expand your horizon. So I will be linking a lot of black creators, black booktubers down below, and I would suggest that you follow them and hear for what they have to say as well. I will also be linking a few petitions and donations that you could probably do. Donations, if it's not like, if you can't make donations, that's fine. There are still plenty of petitions that you can sign, plenty of things that you can do. There is also, like, for example, a video which if you just stream on YouTube, then all the AdSense money, or the money, you know, that you, if you watch the entire thing, then the money goes to like bail bonds and a bunch of other things. So you should definitely watch that, so I'll link that down below as well. Cool. But anyway, I have a few books that I want to talk about, books that I have loved, and I'm going to do that right now. The first book I want to talk about is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Now, this is a book that I've actually funnily already reviewed on this channel, so we will link it up here somewhere, but yeah, you can check that out. Essentially, this book was a debut book by Angie Thomas, who has now gone and written another called On the Come Up, which is also great, but on The Hate You Give will always be one of my favorites. This book is about, it follows this girl called Star, who is a teenager in somewhere in the US. I'm not really sure where, I'm forgetting, but essentially she goes for this party with her childhood friend, and the childhood friend gets pulled over by the police when she's in the car with him, and he takes out like a brush to kind of like comb his hair, and the policeman shoots him and kills him. And then she's kind of embroiled in that. At the same point in time, she goes to this predominantly white school, which is like, you know, like one of the private schools of in the US, and she has, like, basically the book is about her struggling with her identity when she's at home, and with around her black friends, and then around her private school friends, and it's also about like how she deals with the repercussions of this very traumatic incident that happened, and I just thought it was really, really well written. It's written in the voice of a teenager, so keep that in mind, but I just thought that that was really cool. It not only speaks about the important things that happened because of these incidents, but it talks about family dynamics, your friendships, and just all of that, and I thought it was a really good, fun, but important read. Another book that I would really like to talk about is Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. Now, this book I think released around 2019, at the end of 2019, and it was all the rage. It was part of like everyone's book club picks, and I think there is a reason why. The book follows three characters. I will name two because the third one is, you'll see if you read the book, okay? So the first one is Amira. She is a black woman who basically babysits for the other woman, which is Alex. Alex's toddler, Briar. And essentially the book starts off itself with what happens is that Alex's house is egged and the police is called, etc. So she calls up Amira to say, hey, like this is really late in the night, but can you please take Briar to like a store like right around the corner, like a grocery store or something, to kind of distract her, because I don't want her to be around when the cops are there. Now keep in mind that Alex is white and so is Briar. So Amira comes and she's like, okay. So she takes Briar and they're chilling in this grocery store, just kind of like roaming around in the aisles. And of course, there is this white woman who comes and thinks that Amira has kind of kidnapped Briar and has taken her hostage or something like that. But it's just a really interesting book to read, to kind of spark these conversations that you can possibly have about race and how it goes on. So for example, that's why The Hate You Give is one example that is very like in your face, and you know for a fact that it's bad, with like police brutality against the like African American people in the US, versus the Such a Fun Age, which is about the microaggressions and the boundaries that non-black people have with black people in the US. And I thought that was really well done. The story itself, like towards the end, I don't know if I really liked how it ended, but I still think this is a really important book to kind of have those discussions and understand those microaggressions that people have even till today. The third book that I want to discuss is a non-fiction read. So this book is called Between the World and Me by Ta-nehisi. Ta-nehisi is a journalist and a really, really good writer, and he's written this book, I think, in 2014 or 15, after some of the most brutal killings that happened. Essentially, he writes this as a letter to his son about being black and inheriting a black body in the US, and just how that is for him. So his personal experience, how it's been for like his parents, and just growing up black in the US. And I thought this book was so well written, so amazing. Ta-nehisi has a way with his words. I of course read it and listened to it on as an audiobook, because his voice is amazing as well, and I just felt even more inspired, and it hit me harder as well because of that. And of course I had to have the physical copy, or like the ebook, because I had to like constantly be highlighting things, because I really think he does a great job in explaining the complexity of being black in the US. And then taking a twist and going completely in the other direction, I want to recommend the Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, or basically anything written by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin can do no wrong in my eyes, and pretty much everyone else's eyes. She is a treasure, like not only a national treasure, but like a worldly treasure, and everyone must protect her. The reason why I'm saying this is because she's a sci-fi fantasy author. The Broken Earth Trilogy, she wrote the first book in 2016. It won the Nebula Prize then, which is basically the biggest honor for sci-fi or fantasy, one of them. And she won it in 2016. She then wrote the next book for the Broken Earth Trilogy in 2017 and won the award for that as well. And then the last book of the Broken Earth Trilogy she wrote in 2018 and won the Nebula Award for that as well. She won it thrice in a row. Like, it's not like people don't write these books, right? But like, the fact that she won thrice in a row should tell you how amazing this series is, and generally her writing is. I have only read, unfortunately, the Broken Earth Trilogy, but the first book, which is the 5th season, follows this world, this alternate world, which you could say is either an alternate world or a very, very, very far off in the future dystopian world for us. So basically it's where there is something called the 5th season that happens, where the world is basically the continent, which are all the continents put together, I think. I don't really know if there are many other continents. I read it a while back. It's broken into half, and there are these beings in the world called orogenes. And now orogenes are people who can manipulate the earth and stone through heat. And one of there are three characters or three perspectives in the book, and all of them are origins. And essentially you get to know the story through various different times in this universe, and they tell you of their experience. Now, I just thought this book was so good, which a lot of other people thought as well, and it just explains like motherhood, but also having to grow up and having like, so basically, oh, I forgot to mention here, origins are not liked by people. They do not like origins. The rest of the world, they think that, you know, like, because basically you can remove the heat from a person's body and make them stone, so you can kill, and it can be very deadly, and hence they are scared of origins. But they use origins to basically do all of their work and build cities and all of that sort of stuff, but origins are not liked at all. So that's essentially the story. Anyway, this book was just so well done, and just, you got to see so many different complex characters. There were characters that were so grey, but you still loved, and you were just like, I empathize with you, but I don't get you, and it's just, it was just so well done, and just the end of the 5th season will hook you. This book is fast-paced, it is a little slow-paced at times as well, but just beautiful. It has beautiful writing, just stunning all around, and I cannot recommend this more. Now, talking about beautiful writing, I would like to recommend to you Jesmyn. Now, I have read only Unburied Sing, which is I think the 3rd or 4th book that she wrote, but I've heard that all of her books are really good, including her memoir which she wrote called Men We Reaped. Now, this book in particular is about two characters, a mother and a daughter. They're told from two perspectives, and one is Lonnie. I'm sorry, I read this in 2017, so it's been a while, but it's still stuck with me, so you can imagine how good I think it is. But yeah, so there's Lonnie, who is the mother. She has she's right now a single mother because Michael, her husband, is in jail. Michael is a white man, however, and they are both kind of like drug addicts. The story kicks off from the time that they find out that Michael is finally going to get out of jail, and she wants to take her kids to like across the country kind of to pick him up. The second perspective is told from her son, their son. The son's perspective, now he's 13 and he's kind of growing into his own, and obviously he's been through a lot with his mother's substance abuse and just a lot of things. He also has a young sister who's really cute. I think she's about 3 years old, and this book goes into like a very fantastical, magical realism aspect of it as well, where they're like ghosts and things, but it's difficult to kind of explain to you what it is, but it follows that story, but at the same point of time it kind of is so immersive and just shows the complexity, as I said with N.K. Jemisin as well. It shows you the complexity of people, it shows you their grays, it shows you just all of that, and the characters are just so well built, and it's just this world which you're like completely immersed into. I have never been to rural Mississippi, but I felt like I was in it, and I understood it, and I got a flavor of that world. So I would recommend this book so highly. I finished this book and I was sobbing, just sobbing, big fat tears. Yeah, this book really got to me, but it was so good. The next book I want to recommend to you is Colson Whitehead's Underground Railroad. Now, this book is pretty well known. I think it was a National Book Award winner, and it follows this slave called Cora as she tries to escape from the South, which is where slavery kind of took place, to the North, where slaves were free. And yeah, so the concept was the Underground Railroad was a trail which people would follow, but in this book they brought the Underground Railroad to actual life. So the concept, which was of people helping people through go and escape the South became an actual underground railroad which people kind of navigated and went into. So this book is about Cora escaping and kind of like coming to her own, because this starts off with when she was young and she's kind of like becoming a woman, but she's also a slave, and how she kind of navigates that, and how she kind of navigates getting out of where she was to like meeting people who want to help, be it previous slaves or also like white people who actually wanted to help and make a change and didn't like what was happening. So these were allies, and I thought this book was really well written. I think Anuya has spoken about this as well in another video, but yeah, I really was immersed in the story. I thought it was, as I said before, well written, and I would definitely recommend it for sure. Alright, and the last book that I want to recommend to you that I have read is a new release, a very, very new release actually, and it is called Song Below Water by Bethany Morrow. Now this book has literally come out just this month, and it follows two sisters, or two best friends who are now sisters. Basically now they live together, but it's Effie and Tavia. Effie is a siren, so it basically follows this world where like certain aspects of mythology still exist. So for example, there are sirens who are basically mermaids who would kill, and I didn't know that this was a thing. Like, I don't know why I didn't know about this, but it's apparently a thing. Anyway, so sirens are a thing, and essentially it's passed down by generation, and they are really looked down upon, because essentially a power that sirens have is that they can compel you to do things. So their voice is now stifled because their voice is what would compel you to do things. And Effie is a siren, and like she doesn't want people to know, because people will then like stifle her voice or like kill her, or stuff like that. So it says that, and it's basically told through these alternating chapters between her and her other sister, who is her parents have died, and she had been living with her grandparents, but now she's trying to like come into her own and understand like what she wants to do as well in this world, and where she kind of stands. And yeah, that's essentially the story, but it is very interesting, and I really liked the sort of things that the author was trying to say through her prose. I thought it was very fast-paced, but also like, so I would want to warn you that in the beginning there isn't too much of context that is given into the world building of things, so you're just a little like, what? But then as soon as you get into it, it's a really, really good story, and it is, I think, young adult, but I think a lot of people can read this and understand where people are coming from. So yeah, have a read. No, what? Just read it. To end this video, I wanted to also give you some recommendations of books that I want to read, that you can probably read with us. And one of them, which I really want to read, is called The Parable of Sour by Octavia E. Butler. She is an amazing writer, and this is sort of a dystopian world, and I'm sorry that I don't know too much about it, but we will link it down below. I am a sort of person who likes to go into books without really knowing too much of the backstories. But other authors that I would really like to recommend are Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, and James Baldwin. James Baldwin, I read the book which is Giovanni's Room, and I really loved it, and given that it's Pride Month, you should probably read it. It's a really great read. It's a classic for a reason. So yeah. Also another classic, which is a LGBT classic, which is written by a black author, is Color Purple. So if you haven't read that, probably read that as well. And then the other last two books that I've heard amazing things is Hood Feminism and All Boys Aren't Blue. Both of these are non-fiction reads. One talks about feminism with especially African American women, and the other one is about a queer black man in the US, and his experience in the world, especially in the US. So these were my recommendations. As I've said before, I am not an expert, so by all means, please do comment down below with all of your recommendations. Would love to know what you kind of have to say. If you've read any of these books, please do let us know what you thought of them as well. And yeah, as I've said, please also check out the links below for the Black Lives Matter movement, and keep reading, and hope you're doing okay. Alright, bye. Oh, also subscribe to me, Sant.Reads.